9 deadly mistakes when selling your house. Hello and welcome back to another episode at NOVARISE. And today we're going to talk about the most common mistakes, 9 of them actually, that people tend to make when they are selling the property. So let's get started. Number 1, working with a realtor without experience. This is by far one of the most important ones. When you work with someone without an experience, your process of selling a house can become an entire nightmare from beginning to end. Working with a realtor without experience can make your selling process a lot longer because they don't know the paperwork. They don't know what the process is like, especially if you're trying to sell a condo where there's so many rules and regulations coming from the board. Whether you can show this property at a certain hour, at a certain day, you need to ask for permission. That's horrible. Or whether the building actually has a lien on it or not. So you definitely want to look for someone who has experience in the field. Another common mistake that inexperienced realtors make is to not price the property correctly. Sometimes they place it higher, which in retrospect, you might think, well, that's not so bad if they place it higher, but it is. It can work against you because when the property is too expensive, no one is going to be interested in it. Or if you get some interest, the interest will be minimal compared to having a good number of buyers who actually are interested in your property. So assuming that everything is working the way it's supposed to, let's say you have a nice house, nicely renovated, and it's on a desired location, then there shouldn't be any reason why people are not interested in your property. So it has to do with pricing. The same thing could happen in the opposite way. Your property could be priced at a very low price, which is good in a sense because you get buyers and you attract more people. But at the same time, you're diminishing your return on your investment. So make sure you work with someone who knows what they're doing, not just someone because your friend became a realtor or a family member became a realtor and you wanted to give it a first shot. No, this is something that it's yours. It is your time. It is your money. It is your asset. So you need to have a competent team member in your power team. Now, mistake number 2, not paying any outstanding debt or liens that you have on the property. It is not uncommon to find in the market properties that have debts attached to it. And those debts are actually inherited by the buyer. So in order to make sure that there's no any debt outstanding in the property that it's about to be sold or about to be purchased, title agencies, they conduct a very thorough research to make sure there are no outstanding debt. So if there's any outstanding debt in your property during that title search, chances are you are either delaying the closing or you can lose your sale completely because sometimes buyers don't want to put up with it. Or you can also get a buyer that sees the potential in your property, but then they wind up negotiating a much lower price for you, lowering your return. So make sure you stay up to date with any liens, any bills that you have paid on it. Otherwise, you will risk losing a sale. Mistake number 3, not investing in the staging of your property. What do I mean by that? Staging means creating a stage, a scenario where people can come in and picture themselves in that environment. In this case, your house. You want to help your buyers to picture themselves living in there or wanting to live in there. That's why staging is so important. It is not an expense. It is a way to create that experience and to provide that buyer an experience, something that they can get in return if they were to purchase your property. And for those who have no idea what I mean by staging, think about it this way. Picture yourself going online, either Zillow or Realtor.com, and then you see postings for different properties. Some properties, you see the decoration so nicely put together and the lighting and the colors of the wall and everything that it's like your dream house. You immediately know that's your dream house. And then on the contrary, you see another property, probably even next door in the same area, but they didn't do any stagings. You see broken furniture, or you see dirty walls and poor lighting in the apartment or the house, and you're asking yourself, why would I even want to live there, let alone pay money for such a ugly place? You will obviously go for the nicer looking one. And that's what staging is about, making things look pretty so you can create that experience for them. Not lying to them, you're just helping them envision where they're going to live in sooner rather than later. Mistake number 4, not paying the utility bills while you're showing the house. That is super, super important. You need to have the electricity on, the water running, everything that helps create that experience. Just think of it this way. Imagine you have a property in Florida where it's hot and humid most of the year, and you're having buyers that are interested and they go into your house, and the first thing or the only thing that is in their mind is, when am I going to get the heck out of here because it's so hot in here, I cannot even look at this property properly. You definitely do not want that. You want to attract people and make them want to stay, make them want to check out every corner of the house. And for that, you will need electricity because that will get the air conditioning on, and they're going to find it a lot more pleasant to visualize themselves. Hey, I can see the couch going over here. I can see the dining table going over here, or the TV hanging on this wall or something like that. So never cheap out on the utilities. Make sure you get that cover. Same thing applies even in cooler climates, because you need lighting inside the property. You don't want people to go in and then just not figure it out. Hey, is this the kitchen or is this the bedroom, or like what the heck is this, because I can't see anything. So make sure you keep your utilities on and up to date until you sold the property. Mistake number 5, not investing in good photographies. Back to the same online posting. I'm sure you've seen in Zillow or Realtor.com properties and where you see one property nicely lit with the right lighting, and it makes you wonder, wow, is this space really that spacious and nice, versus one that looks so dark that you wonder whether they even have electricity on it or not. Remember that everybody judges its books by its cover. You can have the nicest property in the area, but if the photos don't do justice to it, you are actually turning sales away on its own. Because imagine, if people don't even like looking at the pictures of your property, what makes you think they're actually going to take the drive and the time to physically show up in your property? So it is your job as the seller or as the owner of the property to make sure that the cover is nicely presented to the buyer and that they actually want to take a look at your property. And having nice photos are the way to make that happen. Following a mistake, not adjusting your selling price whenever it's necessary. I know it could be a bit of a contradiction, because ideally, if you put a property in the market, you want to get the highest price as possible. But once again, assuming everything else is working well, meaning you have the right location, you have the perfect property, you are in a desirable area, what else is wrong? It's probably the pricing. And I'm sure you have gone online and you've seen properties that have been sitting on the market for over 300 days, 400 days. You definitely don't want to have one of those posts, because it could give the impression that something is wrong with the property, which in some of the cases there could be. But if nothing is wrong with your property, chances are it has to do with the pricing. So you want to limit that window, because the longer your property sits on the listing, the more interest it will eventually lose, because people tend to see the listings that are freshest in the market. And let's say somebody does come across your listing of like 400 days old, chances are they are probably gonna sort of like guess that you're desperate for selling the place, and you might not even get the price that you want, but you're gonna have to accept whatever lower price you're getting in that offer. So the best way to prevent this from happening is to pay attention to the feedback you're getting from the buyers. Are they showing any interest? Are they saving it in their favorites? Do they even want to come to your open houses and take a look at the property? And if the answer is no, you might want to consider adjusting the price and lowering it a little bit. And the ideal time frame to do that is every 45 days. If within the first 45 days of you putting your property on the market, you have seen no interest or no offers coming on your way, you might want to adjust it so that way you increase the volume of people who are actually interested in buying your property, or at least checking it out. And then you are helping them find a more affordable place, so that way you can also move along. Because remember, sometimes it's not so much about how much profit you can make, because remember that the longer your property sits on the market, the more expensive it becomes for you to maintain it as well. And the least relevant it will become to potential buyers. So you want to be able to play around with the time frame, and as long as adjusting the prices as well, so that you can get that property off the market and have it sold as soon as you can. Next mistake is trying to sell that property on your own. I am personally not a fan of it, Although I know that you can go onto Zillow and you will find plenty of for sale by owner sites. There's a couple of downsides of selling the property on your own. First is that you might not be 100% familiar with the rules and regulations or the laws in your state, unless you are a realtor. But chances are, if you're like the average Joe person who bought this property, fix it, you might not want to try to sell it on your own, because there's that legal aspect of the fact that you need to be more savvy or more understanding on marketing strategies that a realtor would typically know. And on top of that, let's face it, when you're trying to sell your own property, chances are you're emotionally attached to it. You take pride on that property because you worked on it, or probably you lived in there. And buyers, they can be pretty cruel sometimes with their feedback. Sometimes they can come into your home and they might say things like, oh my God, this is an ugly wall, or oh my God, this is such an ugly tile. And that might be your favorite tile. And you don't want to create that friction, because at the end of the day, you still want to sell the home and you don't want to get into the argument. Remember, every comment that a buyer is giving you, whether it's good, bad, mean, or nice, it's feedback. It's feedback that you can potentially take and adjust and make some cosmetic renovations if necessary in order to give the market what they want. And aside from that, unless you're a contractor or a realtor, you most likely have a 9-to-5 job. And when you're trying to sell the property yourself, that means you have to be there answering emails, answering inquiries constantly, and then showing the properties, and that requires time. So it is better, in my opinion, to leave that to the expert, someone who knows how to price the property right, who has the time for showings, and at the same time can take that feedback, whether it's good or bad, and then package it nicely and have it delivered to you so you can do the proper upgrades that are necessary in order to get your property sold in the shortest time as possible and for the highest price as possible. Next mistake, accepting an offer without proof of funds. You have no idea how many of these scenarios I've seen. Sellers taking an offer because they got the highest offer in the market, the numbers look very nice, but then you forgot to ask for the proof of funds. How do you even know for sure that this buyer actually has the money to purchase the property? And then you are locked into this offer, not knowing whether they can actually afford to buy your property or not. Remember, there are a lot of scammers out there, or a lot of people trying to make a living off of you. Sometimes these offers may come from wholesalers who are not necessarily willing to buy your property, but they want to lock your property into a contract so they can take your property and sell it to someone else for a profit for them. So you definitely don't want to caught up in this situation. Nothing against wholesalers, but if you're fixing a property and you're putting it nicely, chances are you actually want to do the sell yourself, straight to the buyer who will either want to live in there or want to invest in it, and you want to get out of the equation. You don't want to wait for that. Maybe this wholesaler someday will find another buyer to help me sell the property. You want to sell it as soon as possible and just simply get out of it. So in order for you to do that, you need to make sure that the offer that you're accepting is a qualified offer, meaning one that actually can show that they have the funds to purchase your property. Next mistake, not having a power team backing you up. By that, I mean a realtor, an attorney, and a closing agency, because not having all of these members can make or break your deal. You definitely want to make sure you're working with the right power team, having the right attorney who's negotiating the right terms of the contract, so that you're not responsible for all the closing costs or for everything. And if you are responsible for the closing costs, then let it be something that you willingly negotiated and you wanted to cover. Same thing goes with the right closing agency. A closing agency, a competent one, can help you close within a few weeks of entering into a contract. Or it can make your closing last for months at a time because they probably don't know what they're doing. So you definitely want to have the right power team by your side. And since you stay all the way towards the end, I have a bonus mistake for you. And that is taking your property out of the market too soon. What do I mean by that? Well, let's go back to the subject of getting a nice offer and then not verifying the proof, right? But even then, let's say you do get a nice offer with the right proof of funds, and now you're saying, oh yeah, I love what I see, let's make a deal with this. That is still too soon to take your property off the market. What you want to do is to take that offer, take those proof of funds, have your realtor put everything on a contract if your state allows it, or send everything to an attorney to make sure everything is put into contract. Make sure all the parties involved, meaning you, the seller, and the buyer, are signing the contract, and also make sure that the buyer is sending that earnest money or the deposit to seal the deal. It is very important to get the deposit, otherwise you have nothing to hold on to. Once you receive the deposit, once your attorney or your closing agency has confirmed that they have received that money, then you can proceed to removing that property off the market, because now officially someone has put a reservation in it and has sealed in the deal. But before that, don't take it off the market, because you don't want to turn away any potential offers that might benefit you as well. And until the first potential buyer can prove you that they're actually committed by signing the contract and sending you the deposit, then all cards are on the table and you're free to continue to show your property until you get someone who finally is willing to commit the proper way. Now, let me know which mistake was the most eye-opening for you. Remember to share this video, and I will be seeing you in the next episode. Take care. Bye-bye.